Oh, God, no.
Yeah, so I'm not going to go over everything that Zega said already. Hello, I'm Luke. I work for this amazing company called Saffron. I'm going to go through my presentation fast to help us catch up some ground, and because I didn't actually make enough slides. So this is the guy that Zega was talking about, Wally Ollins. Just a bit of quick research. Can you raise your hand if you've ever heard of Wally Ollins? Thank God. All right. So, yeah, Wally started Wolf Ollins in the late 60s. He wrote a book called The Corporate Personality, an investigation into the nature of corporate identity, which pretty much is widely credited as having catalyzed the whole discussion about brand and branding as a discipline as separate to advertising. He was made a commander of the British Empire in the late 90s. The Royal Society of Arts. I only know all of this. Jack just told me off because he saw me on Wikipedia about 5 minutes ago, quickly checking what my boss actually did. He was given the Bicentennial Award by the Royal Society of the Arts in London, Lifetime Achievement Awards. So the guy's pretty much, you know, the godfather of the discipline, like we said already. And he, in 2001, when Wolf Ollins was acquired by Omnicom, he went, forget this. The whole purpose was, or the whole underlying purpose of the business was to remain independent at all times. So the minute he sold, he got out. He set up Saffron, and 15 years later, we've just opened in Australia. So Wally invented the discipline. I'm standing up here to say that what he did was wrong. I have absolutely no right. I actually got an email about 10 minutes ago from his research assistant in London going, hold on, what is this? What are you talking about? And I tried to quickly reassure her that I'm going to stick in some words saying it really doesn't matter who I am. And because of that, and because I'm standing in front of a room of about 500 people involved in the creative industries, and I'm not a creative, I thought I just wouldn't format any of the slides either so that you couldn't rib me on whether they looked good or not. So, self-deprecation out of the way, I wanted to stop for a second and go, this is actually the generational imperative, is to stand up and query everything that's gone before us, no matter how authoritative, well-researched, widely acknowledged or understood it is actually a necessity that we stand up and question the things that our forebears taught us, because otherwise, frankly, we wouldn't really be going anywhere as a people. And to appeal to the emotional side of everybody, I thought I would just share this that my daughter said to me the other day in the car, which nearly killed me. It actually nearly killed both of us because it was quite emotional. I know what happens when you die, Daddy. You become magic, you're in all the colors, and you return to nature. But even though I won't see you, you'll still be holding my hand and walking with me everywhere I go, and that's magic. So she's 4 years old, and she's taught me something about death that goes beyond any understanding that I have death, just sat there in the back of my car. So let's talk about something we understand pretty well, branding. Now, there are 100,000 different definitions of branding. I'm not going to say they're right, I'm not going to say they're wrong. But from a talk I was at a few months ago, I remember it was thrown out to the audience. I'm not going to do that to you unless anyone desperately wants to volunteer a description of what brand is. But there's every answer you might expect, from an identity system through to the traditional logo, which is wrong, through to like hundreds of different things. What we do agree on pretty consistently is that a brand is an asset, right? And it is therefore an asset that can be managed, even though it is intangible. And managing, or more often failing to manage your brand, can have extremely positive or negative impacts upon your business. Quite often, it's actually the largest asset in the business, even though it's not actually recognized on the balance sheet until it gets sold. And also importantly, what is widely agreed and understood is that brand is a foundation for growth of the business. And it's kind of anchored in that thought that the issue that I'm going to come to in a second stems from. In branding, what we do is attempt to capture all of these ideas around the company, where it comes from, why they're doing it, how they do it, who their people are, where they operate, what their products are. It's to capture that and codify it. And I use this word a lot to describe the work, but I think it's also kind of wrong, because codifying implies that you are taking something intangible and you're carving it into a piece of stone to make it permanent. And permanency is really the fundamental issue with branding today that I want to argue about. So there are lots and lots and lots of words used in brand strategy. These are things you'll be familiar with, maybe you're not. Clarity, consistency, differentiation, competitive advantage, sustainability, credibility, authenticity, meaning. They're all useful. They help us capture concepts in a way that can be made relatively consistent, make it a little bit more apples for apples. But then every different agency, every different practitioner, every different client has a different view of what matters. We then have our brand's mission, our brand's vision, our brand's values, DNA, personality, proof points, promise, pillars, proposition, equities, idea. What is going on? Quite simply, these are just any one of a myriad of different words that you can use to try and capture an idea. There is no scientific methodology that underpins the process of branding. So in order to try and get past that, we make these wonderful things called frameworks. Now, I did a bit more research on this than everything else, and frameworks are pretty much not in use in the UK much anymore, a little bit more so in Europe, still quite well used in the US, but they're basically pretty consistently used across all work in Australia. Pretty much. I'm sorry if I'm insulting anybody. And I went and I thought I'd just grab a few frameworks that piss me off to share with you. So there's this one. I'm not quite sure why the bits stick out one side or they stick out the other side. It's talking about brand architecture. This isn't brand architecture, just saying. And it highlights some very interesting things about whether you're going to be focused mum or easygoing mum. The brand pillars that support that are different depending whether you're focused mum or easygoing mum, which I find slightly strange. But just so that they don't lift the hood on the incredible rigor that's gone into this, it is flagged at the bottom with the name and data, segmentation name and data has been disguised, and that there are only sample pillars and benefits because all data has also been described. Because you could steal this and sell it for a fortune. No. This one I like as well because it looks just kind of really threatening. There's something good going on at the center of that, which is they've identified that there is something at the center of it, and they've chosen essence, which is one of the familiar and oft overused terms, and then everything else is just kind of crushing in on that. I'm also amazed by the fact that this is published as IP when it is still using, you might recognize, the default word art font and color palette, so lazy. And then this is the best one ever. If you're English, you might remember Blockbusters, a game show. It's kind of exactly like that. This covers every single base. It's got everything. But there is an issue in there, in my mind, which is the fact that at one end you've got the company, and then as far away as you can possibly put it, you've got just this concept of evolution. Now, you'd think that evolution within the context of the organization's work and its markets would have some effect on the company itself. So maybe this thing is supposed to like wrap around and you turn it into some kind of space-age headband or something. And then this is the best, right? Because they went, all the words are wrong, we have our own words, and they are that you establish a brand foundation, then brand filler, blah, 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 blah. But this is the only one of the crap frameworks that I could find that has something extremely important in it that the others are missing, which is it's cyclical, right? So this is saying, by definition, that there is no start and end point. So however well you've got all of this pinned down, however well understood it is, however successful it is, you've got to continuously revisit it. Now, Saffron's extremely fortunate because we focus on building relationships with our clients that endure. So I know everyone says that, but this is demonstrated by the fact that we were brought in by a major Spanish bank in 2005 to do a full rebrand. So we did full rebrand. We then rolled it out, of course. We then stayed on board. We monitored it. We tracked its performance. We optimized it. We revised it. We carried on doing this until last year they came back and went, right, it's time to go again. They didn't put it out to competitive pitch. And they're also not critiquing the quality of the work that has gone beforehand because they're saying it's just this is where we're at. We're in a situation where we have to take more than an incremental step in the evolution of our identity. So we're going to do another full rebrand, and we're going to get you to do it again because we know that you're going to stay on board. What's happening is the speed of that cycle is increasing dramatically. So all of these frameworks are valid. I mean, it's arrogant and conceited to stand up here and say that they're all bullshit. They are valid, but actually none of them are true, because there isn't any scientific methodology that can underpin this. The reason there isn't consistent agreement is because the agencies try to differentiate their approaches in order to have sellable IP. And then they stand up and they flash their IP around with the goal of attracting more business, and it's the same form of competitive differentiation that we try to sell into our clients. The methodology that pins it is fundamentally, completely and utterly broken. It's not right, it's not relevant anymore, because frankly, the world is changing faster than we've ever seen it. I mean, everyone talks about the rate of change, but going super meta for a second, the rate at which people are talking about the rate of change is self-accelerating, because the whole sodding thing is accelerating so much that as soon as we've actually captured, codified, understood, sold, explained something, it is no longer relevant. The context has changed again to a point where, yes, a lot of what we learn is valid to build upon, but a lot of what we put in place needs to be revisited. And that cycle is just happening faster and faster and faster. So yes, there's something structurally incorrect about the methodology that we've been applying, but it's happening within a context that is moving too fast for it to even stand. This is captured quite well, this thought, which a lot of people don't realize, that only 12.2% of the companies in the original founding year of the Fortune 500 list are still there, right? Because they didn't actually change. I found this one. This was the 5th largest company in the world at the time, Armour, and they're a meat packing company from the US. And they did diversify slightly. They got into some form of medical product for athletes that was a byproduct from the meat rendering industry. That was really successful. They stuck the Armour brand on it as well, because why not? And it's now been broken up and sold into 100,000 pieces and doesn't exist anymore as a company. But fundamentally, the companies that are no longer there because they didn't adapt, right? And if you don't invite change into your life, if you don't actively question the things that you're doing, I mean at a personal level, but at a professional level is what we're talking about here, it invites disruption, right? Someone smarter than you, probably younger than you, will look at what you're doing and go, they're not doing that very well, and come at you. And because I said the D word, I've got to flag it, right? The other thing that we sell. Everything is disrupted. Everything is disrupting everything else. There are things disrupting disruption. I took out the slide, which is annoying, which was this massive headline about finally the towel has been disrupted because everyone's been waiting for an alternative to a towel. Disruption is everywhere. This is nothing new. Disruption is quite simply the way of the world. It always has been, right? In fact, you have a choice. You can either be disrupted or you can be a disruptor. And fundamentally, that's what drives certainly my industry, probably a lot of the industries that you're involved in yourselves. There is nothing else, right? You're either successful incumbent or incumbent going out of business, whatever it might be, or you are looking to come to market in order to shake it up. We're quite keen on that one, because that's what we're trying to do to our own industry. But even then, that doesn't mean that this is the only place where exciting things are happening, because obviously there are lots of very large businesses which are terrified about being disrupted. So what is the strategic response to that? Well, that's kind of the interesting question. Traditionally, what we've been doing is looking to maintain relevance through differentiation built on solid foundations. What I mean by that is it's always been a case of pin down what the brand is, translate that into identity that is clear, that is consistent, that is evenly applied, that is well understood, and then advertise the shit out of it for a fortune, for ages, to remind people that they care about it, to maintain relevance, right? The fact of the matter is, the only way that you can actually deal with disruption is by having flexible foundations. Because if you don't know what's coming at you, you can't possibly pre-prepare for it, right? You can make some kind of concrete fortress and bury it 5 meters underground, whatever the branding equivalent of that would be, I'm not really sure. But it's hardly going to be out there in the world responding to what matters to people and updating its markets, its product offer, its positioning to respond to the changes in the world. Right? Fundamentally, what I kind of need to say is that in order to survive, you have to adapt. And I mean, we all know that's a truth, right? That's the evolutionary truth. But exactly the same thing matters in the corporate world. Right? It's exactly the same thing that's driving it. If you can't adapt to what's going on, you're literally not going to be able to sustain the shocks that are given to you by the people who are younger and more intelligent. So this could mean, you could look at this and go, right, well, you're saying that branding is dead. No, it's not. Advertising's dead. Branding is currently far more important than it has ever been because of the simple fact that if you are going to continuously evolve and change, update your identity, update your offer, update the markets that you operate in, update the sort of sector that you operate in, there's a very good chance that your brand is actually the only thing that stays put. I mean, people will come and go, founders will come and go. The brand is there to capture what is relevant to people. And people change, so what is relevant to them changes. So the brand that's trying to be relevant to people needs to change. I mean, it's pretty obvious. To create relevance, you have to disrupt, but to maintain relevance, you have to adapt. So that's kind of what we look at when we're looking at the position a client is in. Like, if you need to do something new, if you want to come in and develop a degree of relevance for your brand, you have to do something not just new, but something new that people actually care about, that they want to buy, that they want to tell their friends about. And if you're in a position where you're threatened of being disrupted, then you need to adapt your offer, you need to adapt your brand to be able to create a defensible point against that. Repeat again, you can either lead change and disrupt, or you can experience it. And the thing that matters fundamentally in the end is relevance. So I wanted to talk about my favorite case in the world. This is the best piece of brand strategy. This is the best piece of strategy anywhere by anyone. And even though I asked really, really, really nicely, Elon Musk does not deal with agencies. He does not see the need for any agencies whatsoever. And he's doing pretty well without us. So first of all, what is Tesla, right? Tesla isn't a car company. That is a very funny looking car, right? Tesla isn't a battery company either, right? In their own words, Tesla is a technology company that is applying its capabilities to discovering new technologies that exist to make the world a place that we as a race can live on, and all the other races. Now, what I find masterful about Musk's approach, apart from all the risk-taking, all the innovation, the craziness, is that he has a very simple strategic approach, right? He knows what the problem is, and he knows how to fix it. The problem is pretty simple. We're all going to die. The way to fix that is one of two things. Find a way to not die on the planet or get off the planet. And that is what his two businesses exist, 2, 4, 6, whatever it is at the moment, businesses exist to do. Tesla will continue to change everything. When everyone's adopted electric cars, fantastic. When all the energy companies, sorry if you're in the room, are dead, fantastic. Tesla will be there, they'll have filled that, they'll go on and they'll do the next thing. And meanwhile, we'll be setting up a 1 million-person colony on Mars, which is our hedged position. So the only thing that matters within strategy, be it branding or corporate, whatever it is this. That you have to know what you're trying to do, like save the world, and then figure out how you're going to do it. All a strategy is a roadmap from A to B. Right? And then once you're going, you've got to question absolutely everything, including the strategy, the roadmap, what it is that you're trying to achieve, because things are changing. Context is changing, your world is changing. And the great thing is, the reason I love design, the reason I love designers, is because that's frankly what you do. Design, by definition, changes the way that things are in order to make them better. So it's no surprise that design is adoption within organizations. It is at the highest level it's probably ever been, that we're going back into the cycle of organizations bringing large teams of designers in-house. Great. Design is probably the answer. We then, as practitioners, have to turn that in on ourselves and question everything that we do. Everything. We have to literally sit there and tell our boss that they're wrong, even if they're dead, like in this case. Sorry, Wally. In the end, how adaptable we are is what will define how long your brand exists, and how adaptable your branding agency or your business is that serves businesses in an agency capacity. How able that is to change will also define how long it lives as well. So hopefully for us, that will be a while. We're Saffron. Get in touch. We want clients. Thank you very much.